Hi everyone, it's the ComicFanMan here, coming at you with another video. And in today's video, we're going to have a look here at the 2000X HeMan from 2002, done by Mattel, but designed by the Four Horsemen. And, you know, this is a fantastic figure. And this was a fantastic series of designs by the Four Horsemen that now Mondo is redoing. And Mondo just released the pre-orders for the first wave. Unfortunately, I believe they are way too expensive for what they are. I did order the HeMan, and I will judge the rest of the line based on how that HeMan is. But I am definitely skipping Clawful. I'm sorry, I don't see anything on those figures that justify that pricing. You know, and then after tax and tariff and domestic shipping, it is just way too much. Yeah, and I unfortunately, like, I just did a video about like how crazy that pricing is to me. But we'll see, you know, maybe when I get the HeMan in hand, maybe there'll be something about it that's like, holy cow, it's really worth that price. But from all the still shots that I've seen, there's nothing on the figure that's revolutionary. There's nothing on the figure that makes me say, wow, holy cow, the detail and this, that, and the other. Like, NECA has far more paint and detail on their figures than what Mondo has shown on these, their first wave. And those figures are like, you know, $30 to $40. Like, there's no reason for the HeMan and Clawful to be that expensive, especially because they are now in the 1/12 scale. You know, it's different if, like, okay, like, you know, they're still in the 1/6 scale. That was their niche. But now they're going into the 1/12 scale market, and those prices are ridiculous. I think, like, you know, companies like Hasbro and McFarlane see what, you know, what Mondo is charging for that figure, and they're probably like, hey, you know, whatever, we can start raising our prices too, because now all the figures that used to be like $20 like 5 years ago are now $30. You're talking about prices raised like 1/3 in 5 years. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you know, I don't think Mondo should have done that, because now it's given all these other companies the license to raise their prices on a ridiculous level. Okay, that out of the way, let's take a look here at the figure. And I gotta say, you know, designed by the Four Horsemen, these figures were amazing to me. I know some folks didn't like the fact that he was so thin. But the detail, the sculpt, and, like, you know, this stylized look, I always loved it. I thought it was amazing. Let's have a look at the accessories here. Here's the shield. And the original Four Horsemen story, I believe, of the 2000X line was that Skeletor actually got the two halves of the sword. And so Man-at-Arms had to redesign, like, HeMan's armor with all this kind of high tech, which is why HeMan's weapons and armor kind of look like they were made by technology instead of magic, because the power sword is actually the sword that's being held by Skeletor. That's why that sword split in half. Obviously, they didn't do that for the cartoon, but look at that. Look at all that detail. All this nice intricate detail, paint and paint detail on the inside. Beautiful. And I love this metallic styled iridescent plastic that they use there for that. And here is the power sword, and this is that, like, that modern style power sword. So this would have been the power sword that Man-at-Arms had made to be able to reach the power of Grayskull again. And yeah, as you can see, all the sculpting and detail, Like, that's amazing. And I believe, if I remember correctly, these figures were about $7 or $8 back in the day, somewhere in that realm. And that's crazy. And take a look. Here's a little detail that Mondo forgot to do on their power sword. You are able to open the power sword like it did in the cartoon. When he would call down the power, the bottom part would open up like this, and he would get hit by the power. And Mondo's sword, for all the paint and detail that they did, they forgot to do this part, and that's pretty cool. I love that. That's such a sweet little detail that they got that onto this figure some 23 years ago. All right, let's have a look at the figure himself, HeMan. And as you can see, really great. Looks exactly like the way he looked in the cartoon. Obviously, the sculpting, they gave him all the muscles and all, but the sculpting is very stylized, like very much like in a comic book style stylized look, which I loved. But you know, a lot of the folks who were collecting, you know, of my age, who had HeMan from back in the day, obviously he was very muscular and bulky, where he looked very thin, so there was a lot of complaint about that. But I loved this design. Look at all of this intricate work here by the Four Horsemen. I don't know how they got Mattel to like do all of this detail back in the day, but that was amazing. Look at that. And yes, the articulation is obviously limited. It's just left and right for the head. There's a little bit of T-posing there, and obviously the arms go all the way around. The waist has that spring action, just like the classic figure. So you can do the punching. More detail here. This is a really soft, rubbery plastic here. But it looks amazing. Look at that pouch with the little tiny gold dots on there. That's amazing. Another little pouch there. And amazing sculpted muscles on his legs. And then down to the leather wrapped boots. Barbarian style boots. Oh man. I remember when I first saw this figure, I was like, holy cow, that looks amazing. And yeah, I immediately like got them. I believe these were about like $7 or $8 back in the day. I don't remember exactly offhand, but this was, for me, this just felt amazing. And the cartoon was awesome. Unfortunately, Cartoon Network was terrible at managing their properties, so like they ruined the cartoon because they kept moving the time slots. And then Mattel kind of gave up on the line after that. So, you know, there's not that many figures. It doesn't go that deep, but it's amazing. And the Four Horsemen design here, like I heard about the Four Horsemen while they were working for McFarlane Toys, but really their name like blew up when they started this line here. Once they got into this, it was like, holy cow. That was when I knew exactly like, oh shoot, the Four Horsemen are definitely dudes to like pay attention to. And I love these figures. They came out amazing. All right, let's put his weapons on.
I have the power!
All right, and here he is calling down the power with the activated power sword. That looks really cool. Yeah, and again, this is a feature that is not in the Mondo sword, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, look at that. You know, again, figure from 23 years ago. You know, yes, lack of articulation. I understand all that, but again, the idea was to make these figures, you know, an updated look, but they were supposed to have the vintage styled features to them. So that was the callback for them. So he only has the spring-loaded waist, but the articulation points are the same articulation points from the original Masters of the Universe figures. So I think they did a great job, and like I said, even for modern figures, I still think this holds up really, really nicely. All right, so here he is with all of his weapons, and this looks really cool. You know, you got him holding the axe there. This axe is ginormous, I'm not gonna lie. Like the size of this axe was super surprising to me. Did they ever show it in the show? I don't remember. If you guys remember, drop a comment and let me know which episode it is. I have all the episodes, I don't remember them ever showing the axe. And the shield, again, looks awesome. And then he has the sword sheathed in his back. I will say, like, this angle is kind of weird. It's like almost extreme. Like, it should have been more vertical, but it's more like, you know, horizontal, left to right. But he's an awesome looking figure from 23 years ago now, 23 years ago. And yeah, I think, you know, Mattel and the Four Horsemen teaming up to get this done, I love it. And here he is side by side with the King Grayskull Kitbash that I did from Masterverse. And I put the 2000X Power Sword on him, and I think they look really good. Obviously, King Grayskull in the cartoon was absolutely jacked. He was bigger than He-Man. So yeah, so I think this works out really well, because definitely makes, since Masterverse is like on the bigger scale, you know, you can definitely see him being the King Grayskull of 2000X here. And here's a Masterverse version of the 2000X He-Man that I also kitbashed using the Vicron body and the Vecna He-Man head. And yeah, I think that also looks good with the 2000X Power Sword there. I love it. I think that looks awesome. All right, and here he is alongside the other high-end versions of He-Man that I have here. Obviously, these two are Four Horsemen designs as well. So these are his baby brothers, actually. Well, actually, he's a teenager, but this one just came out this year. But yeah, you could definitely see the Four Horsemen influence from this figure. And this is the Frazetta Girls Conan figure, and I bought a second version so I can kitbash him to a He-Man. And with this Vicron armor, I feel like he does kind of call back to the 2000X He-Man, which is kind of why I like him so much. I mean, I think if Frank Frazetta painted a He-Man, he would have looked definitely something like this. You know, he would have kept the harness within the same color scheme as the rest of the armor that he had. But yeah, I think this looks really, really cool, because you know, this is their Four Horsemen more recent designs, the Legendary Barbarian. This is their MOTU Classics He-Man. And yeah, I think they go really well with the 2000X design. And here he is alongside the vintage He-Man, the one that started it all. And yeah, as you can see, like, you know, he was a wonderful callback, a nice redesign. He has all the same articulation points. So that was really neat. Obviously, He-Man has that power punch action. It was referred to back in the day, and this He-Man also has the power punch spring effect. So that was really cool that they gave him the same kind of gimmick. But yeah, it was a fantastic time to you know, to bring up that design, for the Four Horsemen to reimagine this design of He-Man. You know, so I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. All right, so here I have my new Eternia Clawful picking up the 2000X He-Man, just like in the Mondo shot from their press release. obviously, I'm not a professional photographer. I don't know how they would have set that up or got that done. But yeah, I figured I'll do a cheap version of that photo. I think it came out pretty good. But yeah, like this Clawful here from Masterverse is amazing. Like the sculpt, the paint, and everything, the wash that they did on him. It's just an amazing looking figure. And, this was kind of the reason why I didn't feel like I needed to get that Clawful. However, even without this Clawful, that Mondo release is crazy expensive. I do hope that Masterverse will eventually get to 2000X, because that will at least help with the having to deal with the FOMO of the Mondo figures, because like those figures are just way out of line. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this look at HeMan from the Masters of the Universe 2002 series, affectionately known as 2000X. I am really happy that 2000X excuse me, is once again coming up to the forefront. This was one of the only lines that I, as an adult, actually sought out. Pixel Dan, in one of his videos, did mention that 2000X was kind of the toy line that really kind of started or kickstarted the whole like adult action figure collecting. And I do feel he's correct in that, because this was the line that that started me collecting as an adult, and that was before I got married, and then once I met my wife, real life hit. I got rid of most of the stuff that I had at the time, but I could not let go of some of these figures, HeMan, and I got a couple of other ones that I'll show off. But yeah, 2000X was always my favorite version of Masters of the Universe. Obviously I grew up with Filmation, and I love Filmation. It does have a special place in my heart. But as an adult who can now like comprehend full story arcs, yeah, 2000X definitely had that for me. And so I'm really happy to see it make a strong comeback. With the Mondo, obviously it's I think that's a little too expensive. But Mattel is doing an Origins version of the 2000X figures, which I don't think I will get them. I might get the ones that they didn't make during this first go around, like the Clawful. That one I'll probably will get. But the basic figures, I have these. These are better, so I'm going to stick with these. But yeah, I'm really happy it's making a comeback. Me personally, I on my wish list is to have 2000X figures come out in the Masterverse style. That is my dream. Come on, Mattel, by 2027, that'll be the 25th year anniversary of the 2000X series. So make that the 25th anniversary Masterverse 2000X figures. Come on, you guys can do it. Please, Mattel. 2001, the cartoon itself by Mike Young was my favorite. It had an amazing story arc, and they were doing so many things, and unfortunately Cartoon Network, mismanaged it, and so it got killed like a season and a half into the story arc. It didn't even get a full 2 seasons. But it was amazing. It started with, He-Man's origins, Skeletor's origins, got into the Snake Man. It was going into Hordak. There was a whole origin story for Teela that was finally being fulfilled and explored. And, there's that mystery still that's lingering, that is Man-at-Arms her father, or Fisto her father? I would love to see all of that, tied up properly. So Mattel, If anybody at Mattel is listening, go find the people from Mike Young Productions and finish that series, man. Go to Netflix and have them finish that series, because I would love to see that series finished. You know, my favorite episode of that series was, I believe it was the second season, episode 1, I think it was, episode 1 or 2, where HeMan had to defend Castle Grayskull by himself from a horde of like Skeletor villains. Like Skeletor got his regular villains like arrested, and he had all these other different villains, like a couple of giants, and there were all these other weird side villains. And he attacked Castle Grayskull, and He-Man had to defend Castle Grayskull by himself because the other masters were distracted with something else. And that was the absolute best episode ever, because it showed how absolutely badass He-Man was, that he was able to take all of them and beat them back and protect Castle Grayskull. That was definitely my favorite episode. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you feel that I've earned it, please give me a like and subscribe. Drop a comment. Let me know, like, you know, did you enjoy 2000X Masters of the Universe? Are you excited about it getting revitalized? Oh yeah, and also, yes, the cartoon is being re-released in Blu-ray. It's getting a HD update, and it's going to be released on Blu-ray. I'm excited for that. So let me know if you're excited for this 2000X Masters of the Universe revitalization. And I think I'll probably show off Skeletor next, because if you got He-Man, you gotta have Skeletor, right? So he'll probably be next, and I hope you're ready to join me with these retro figure reviews from MOTU 2000X. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.